Trevor is not coming. Those 4 words, whispered by my wedding coordinator, didn't make sense at first. I stood there in my grandmother's silk veil, trembling, trying to process sounds that couldn't possibly mean what they meant. What do you mean he's not coming? He's supposed to be at the altar. The ceremony starts in 4 minutes. The silence that followed told me everything. My mother pushed past the coordinator, her face drained of color. Nora, sweetheart, we need to talk. That's when I knew. You don't need to talk when the groom is running late. You need to talk when your entire world is about to collapse. Where is he? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Baby. My mother reached for my hands. Kelsey is gone too. The bouquet hit the floor. White roses scattered across Italian marble like bones. Kelsey. My best friend since 3rd grade. The woman who'd held my hair back through food poisoning, who'd talked me off ledges during every fight Trevor and I ever had, who'd helped me choose this dress, who'd promised just last night that I was making the right choice. Kelsey, my maid of honor, who was supposed to be standing beside me in 20 minutes. No. The word felt childish leaving my mouth, but it was all I had. No, that's not. They wouldn't. My father appeared in the doorway, his face carved from stone. He held up his phone. On the screen was a text message from Trevor's brother. I'm sorry. He made me promise not to say anything. They left together an hour ago. He said he couldn't go through with it. Said he's been in love with her for months. The room tilted. 240 guests sat in the cathedral waiting for a bride. Waiting for me. My cousins, my co-workers, my entire extended family who'd flown in from 8 different states. Trevor's family, who'd never quite thought I was good enough for their golden boy anyway. They were all out there, watching the minutes tick past, whispering, wondering, knowing. Hey there, my wonderful friend. I know you're probably sitting there in shock right now, just like I was in that moment. How's your day going? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story so far. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, and whether you've ever felt that moment when your whole world just stops. 'Cause mine stopped completely. We need to tell them. My father's voice was gentle but firm. We need to make an announcement. Tell them what exactly? I heard myself laugh, a sound like breaking glass. That the groom decided my best friend was a better option. That I've been planning this day for 18 months, and I didn't even notice the 2 people I trusted most were falling in love behind my back. My mother was crying now, ruining the makeup she'd spent 2 hours perfecting. The deposit, she whispered. Nora, the cathedral, the reception hall, the catering. We put it all on credit. Your father's business has been struggling, and we believed this would be worth it because it was your special day. $48,000. That's what this humiliation cost. I knew because I'd helped plan every detail, had argued with my parents about the expense, had been assured by Trevor that we'd help pay them back after the honeymoon. The honeymoon he was apparently now taking with Kelsey. I walked to the door on legs that didn't feel like mine. Through the crack, I could see down the hallway to where it opened into the cathedral. Hundreds of faces turning, craning, checking their watches. I'll tell them myself. Sweetheart, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I stepped into that hallway, my dress whispering against the floor, and started walking toward my own execution. Each step echoed. Somewhere, an organ was still playing soft prelude music, unaware that there would be no processional. I was 5 steps from the cathedral entrance when I heard the heavy front doors open behind me. A step, confident, and hurried. Stop. The voice wasn't loud, but it carried absolute authority. Turn. The man walking toward me didn't belong in a church. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my dress, tailored so precisely it looked like a weapon. Dark hair, darker eyes, and a face that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so dangerous. I'd never seen him before in my life. He walked past me like I wasn't even there, straight into the cathedral. I heard the music stop, heard the confused murmuring of 240 people. Then I heard his voice, carrying through the sacred space. The wedding is still happening. Everyone stays. What was he doing? I rushed to the entrance and froze. He stood at the front of the cathedral, commanding the attention of every single person there. My priest looked like he wanted to object but couldn't find the courage. The man's eyes found mine across the distance. "Come here." I should have run. Should have demanded to know who he was. Should have done anything except obey. But something in his voice made my feet move. I walked down that aisle after all, bouquet forgotten, veil trailing, while everyone stared. When I reached him, he took my hand. His grip was warm, solid, real. "I'm Dominic Falcone," he said quietly, "just for me. And I'm about to save you from the worst humiliation of your life. But you need to trust me for the next 5 minutes. I don't know you." "I know." His thumb brushed across my knuckles. "But I know what it's like to be betrayed by people you love. And I know you don't deserve this." He turned to face the crowd, still holding my hand. "There's been a change of plans," Dominic announced. "The previous groom proved himself unworthy. So I'm taking his place." The cathedral erupted in shocked whispers. My father stood up in the front pew. "Now wait just a minute. Who the hell are you?" Dominic's expression didn't change. "I'm the man who's going to pay for this entire wedding. The cathedral, the reception, the catering, all of it. Consider your debt cleared." He pulled out his phone with his free hand, typed something, and my father's phone buzzed. When Dad looked at the screen, his face went white. "That's half," Dominic said calmly. "You'll get the other half when the ceremony is complete. All I ask is that you give me your daughter's hand in marriage. Right here. Right now." The world was spinning again, but differently this time. My mother stood up. "Nora, baby, you don't have to do this." But I was looking at Dominic Falcone, this stranger who'd walked into my nightmare and offered me something I hadn't expected. Not love. Not even mercy. Ois. I could walk out of here as the girl whose groom ran off with her best friend, the pity case everyone would whisper about for years. Or I could do something so shocking that it would rewrite the entire story. "Why?" I whispered to him. "Why would you do this?" His eyes held secrets I couldn't read. "Because powerful men don't leave women at altars. They claim them." He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "I'll give you everything he promised and more. Protection, security, respect. A marriage that won't end in betrayal. You don't love me." "No," he agreed. "But I'll never humiliate you. Can he say the same?" The question hung in the air between us. Behind me, I heard the cathedral doors open again. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Turn." Trevor stood in the doorway, Kelsey beside him, both looking panicked. "Nora, wait," Trevor called out. "We need to talk. This was a mistake." I was confused. He stopped talking when Dominic stepped forward, putting himself between Trevor and me. "You had your chance," Dominic said, his voice dropping to something lethal. "You gave her up. She's mine now." "This is insane." Trevor's voice cracked. "You can't just marry someone else's fiancé." Dominic turned to look at me over his shoulder. "I'm not someone else's anything," I heard myself say. "Not anymore." I looked at Trevor, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. A coward who'd run instead of having the courage to be honest. A man who'd let me get dressed in my grandmother's veil while planning to destroy me. Then I looked at Dominic Falcone, dangerous and unknown, and offering me the one thing I desperately needed. A way forward that didn't end in total devastation. I picked up my forgotten bouquet from where someone had retrieved it. Straightened my veil. Took Dominic's offered arm. "Father Gregory," I said clearly. "I'm ready to get married now." The priest looked terrified, but he opened his book. And as Dominic Falcone led me to the altar, his hand steady on mine, I realized I'd just made a choice that would either save my life or end it completely. I just didn't know which yet. Father Gregory's hands shook as he turned the pages of his ceremony book. This wasn't how weddings were supposed to go, and every person in that cathedral knew it. But Dominic stood beside me like this had been the plan all along. Unwavering. His hand still held mine, and I clung to that anchor because everything else was chaos. Trevor was shouting something from the back of the cathedral, but Dominic must have signaled someone because two men in dark suits appeared from nowhere and escorted him out. Kelsey went with him, crying, and I felt absolutely nothing watching them go. Maybe I was in shock. Maybe I'd broken somewhere between Trevor's not coming and I'll marry her. Or maybe I just stopped caring about the wrong people. "We can skip to the vows," Dominic said quietly to Father Gregory. "Keep it simple." The priest nodded, relieved. He cleared his throat, and the cathedral fell silent. "Do you, Dominic Falcone, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." No hesitation. Like he made life-altering decisions every day before breakfast. Father Gregory turned to me, and I saw pity in his eyes. He'd known me since I was 7 years old. He'd watched me grow up in this church, had counseled Trevor and me through our pre-marriage classes. "Do you, Nora Whitmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" This was it. The last chance to run, to choose humiliation over the unknown. I looked at Dominic. Really looked at him. There was something in his eyes I couldn't name. Not love but not cruelty either. Almost like recognition. Like he saw something in me that mattered. "I do." He slid a ring onto my finger. Not the one Trevor had chosen. This one appeared from Dominic's pocket. A platinum band with a single diamond that caught the light like a star. It fit perfectly, and I didn't want to think about what that meant. I had no ring for him. We hadn't planned for this. Dominic just smiled slightly like he'd expected as much, and pulled a second ring from his pocket. He handed it to me, and I slid it onto his finger with hands that had finally stopped shaking. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," Father Gregory said, sounding like he was pronouncing a sentence instead of a blessing. "You may kiss the bride." Dominic turned to me, and I realized we were about to have our first kiss in front of 240 people. He cupped my face gently, giving me one last moment to refuse. I didn't. His lips met mine, soft and brief, a kiss that was more promise than passion. When he pulled back, his thumb brushed my cheekbone. "Breathe," he whispered. "You're doing perfectly." And somehow that small kindness broke something open inside me. The organ burst into recessional music. Dominic offered his arm, and we walked back down that aisle together as husband and wife. The faces we passed showed everything. Shock, confusion, fascination, horror. My Aunt Maria was crying. Trevor's mother looked like she'd swallowed glass. My father stood frozen, phone still in his hand, staring at a bank transfer that had just erased his crushing debt. We stepped out of the cathedral into afternoon sunshine that felt obscene in its cheerfulness. Car waited at the curb. Not a wedding limousine. A black luxury sedan with tinted windows and a driver who opened the door without being asked. "The reception," I said stupidly. "There's supposed to be a reception." "There will be," Dominic assured me. "My people are already handling the transition. Your guests will be taken care of. But you and I need to talk first." He guided me into the car and I went because what else was I going to do? The door closed, sealing us in leather-scented quiet. The driver pulled away from the cathedral, from my old life, and I realized I was alone with a man I'd married 5 minutes ago and knew absolutely nothing about. "Who are you?" The question came out smaller than I'd intended. Dominic loosened his tie, the first crack in his perfect composure. "I told you. Dominic Falcone. That's a name, not an answer." He studied me for a long moment. "What do you want to know? Why you were at my wedding? Why you paid nearly $50,000 to marry a stranger? Why any of this just happened?" The car turned onto a tree-lined street I didn't recognize. "I own the company that manages the cathedral's event contracts," Dominic said. "When your coordinator called to report the situation, it crossed my desk. I was curious, so I came to see for myself. You came to watch me get humiliated. I came to see what kind of man runs from a woman like you." The compliment, if that's what it was, caught me off guard. "And the marriage proposal." His expression shifted into something harder. "I saw you standing in that hallway. about to walk into a room full of people who would pity you for the rest of your life. I know what that feels like. To have everyone see your weakness, your failure. I decided to offer you an alternative. Out of the goodness of your heart. No. He smiled without warmth. I don't do anything out of goodness. Let's be clear about what this is, Nora. You needed an escape. I needed a wife. We both got what we required. Why do you need a wife? The car stopped in front of a house that made my breath catch. Not a house. An estate. Sprawling grounds, iron gates, stone facade that spoke of old money and older secrets. Because in my world, Dominic said as the gates opened, a man without a family is a man without legitimacy. I've been building an empire, and the final piece requires respectability. A wife provides that. So I'm a business transaction. We're both business transactions. He opened his door. Come inside. We need to establish ground rules before the reception. I followed him because I had no other choice. The house swallowed us into a foyer with marble floors and a staircase that curved like a question mark. A woman appeared from a side room. Older, elegant, with sharp eyes that took in every detail of my wedding dress. Mrs. Leland, Dominic said. This is my wife, Nora. She'll need suitable clothing for the reception. The dress is beautiful but impractical for the evening ahead. Of course, Mr. Falcone. Mrs. Leland's expression gave nothing away. If you'll follow me, Mrs. Falcone. Mrs. Falcone. That was me now. I looked at Dominic, and he nodded. Go. I'll explain everything when you come back down. Mrs. Leland led me upstairs to a bedroom that was larger than my entire apartment. A closet door stood open, revealing clothes I definitely hadn't owned this morning. How? I gestured at the dresses, the shoes, all in what looked like my size. Mr. Falcone is very thorough, Mrs. Leland said simply. He had my measurements. He has resources. She pulled out a cocktail dress in deep emerald. This will photograph well. The reception will have media present. Media. It's a wedding reception, not a press conference. Mrs. Leland's smile was almost sympathetic. You married Dominic Falcone, dear. Everything is a press conference now. She helped me change, and I caught my reflection in the mirror. The same face but somehow different. Like I'd stepped through a portal and come out altered. When I came back downstairs, Dominic was in his study on the phone. He spoke in low tones, a language I didn't recognize. Italian, maybe. When he saw me, he ended the call. Better, he said, taking in the new dress. Now we talk. He poured 2 glasses of something amber and handed me one. I didn't drink. He noticed. Smart. Don't trust anything you haven't seen poured. He took a sip of his own. First rule. In public, we're a united front. You smile, you hold my hand, you play the role of devoted wife. Any cracks in that facade make us both vulnerable. Vulnerable to what? To people who would use weakness against us. He set down his glass. I'm not going to lie to you, Nora. My business exists in gray areas. Have enemies. By marrying me, you inherited them. Fear prickled down my spine. What kind of enemies? The kind who will look for any leverage they can find. Which brings me to rule 2. You don't leave this property without security. Ever. I'm a prisoner. You're protected. There's a difference. Is there? I finally took a sip of the drink. It burned. What if I want out? What if I made a mistake? Dominic moved closer, and I forced myself not to step back. Did you make a mistake? He asked softly. Would you rather be at that reception right now, explaining to everyone why you're not Mrs. Trevor Ashford? Watching people whisper, seeing the pity in their eyes. No, I admitted. But this is insane. Probably. He almost smiled. But it's done. We're married, Nora. For better or worse, you're mine now. And I take care of what's mine. There was possession in those words, but also something else. Promise. What do you get out of this? Yes. Really? He was quiet for a long moment. Legitimacy. Respectability. A reason for certain people to take me seriously instead of seeing me as my father's son. Who was your father? A man I spent my whole life trying not to become. Dominic's jaw tightened. And we're not discussing him tonight. Phone buzzed. Dominic checked it and nodded. The reception is ready. The guests have been transported to the venue. Your parents are waiting. He offered his hand. Time to convince everyone this was a love story instead of a rescue. I took his hand and we walked back to the car. The reception venue had been transformed. Whatever wedding Trevor and I had planned was gone, replaced by something more elegant, more expensive, more everything. Flowers I hadn't chosen, music I hadn't selected, a cake that appeared out of nowhere. My mother rushed over the moment we entered. Nora, sweetheart, what have you done? I got married, Mom. Just like we planned. To a stranger. A man we know nothing about. Dominic appeared at my shoulder, and my mother actually stepped back. Mrs. Whitmore, he said smoothly, I understand your concern. Perhaps we should speak privately after the reception. I'd like to assure you that your daughter will be well cared for. My father joined us, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before when he looked at me. Respect. Maybe even a little fear. The money, Dad said. It's real. It's real, Dominic confirmed. Your debts are cleared. Consider it a wedding gift. My father shook Dominic's hand like he was sealing a deal with the devil and knew it. The evening blurred into a series of moments. Dancing with Dominic while photographers captured every angle. Cutting a cake I'd never tasted. Smiling until my face hurt while strangers congratulated us on our whirlwind romance. Through it all, Dominic played his part perfectly. Attentive husband. Protective partner. A man clearly besotted with his new bride. And the terrifying thing. Part of me wanted it to be real. During our third dance, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind. How did you know my ring size? Dominic's hand tightened slightly on my waist. I told you. I'm thorough. That's not an answer. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. I've been watching you for 3 weeks, Nora. Ever since your wedding contract crossed my desk. I knew your ring size, your dress size, your coffee order, the route you take to work. I knew everything except whether you'd say yes. I should have been horrified. Instead, I felt something else entirely. That's stalking. That's due diligence. He pulled back to look at me. I don't make investments without research. I'm not an investment. No, he agreed. You're much more valuable than that. Before I could ask what he meant, a man approached us. Tall, silver-haired, wearing authority like a second skin. Dominic, the man said. Quite the surprise wedding. Vincent. Dominic's entire demeanor changed, became sharper. I didn't realize you were invited. I wasn't. But when Dominic Falcone suddenly marries, people take notice. Vincent's eyes shifted to me, assessing. Especially when he marries so unexpectedly. Nora, this is Vincent Calabrese. An associate. Vincent, my wife. The way Dominic said wife sounded like a warning. Vincent smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Congratulations, Mrs. Falcone. I hope you know what you've gotten yourself into. I'm learning, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. I'm sure you are. Vincent turned back to Dominic. We need to talk. About the Chicago situation. Not tonight. It can't wait. It will. Dominic's voice dropped to something dangerous. This is my wedding reception, Vincent. Show some respect. For a moment, tension crackled between them. Then Vincent nodded and walked away. Who was that really? Asked. Someone who wants what I have, Dominic said. And now that includes you. Which means you need to be very careful around him. The reception continued, but the joy felt increasingly hollow. I kept catching glimpses of people I didn't know, watching us with expressions I couldn't read. Finally, mercifully, it ended. Dominic and I said goodbye to the remaining guests, and I hugged my parents, who still looked shell-shocked. Are you sure about this? my mother whispered. I wasn't sure about anything, but I said, yes. The car took us back to the estate. The house was dark except for a few lights Mrs. Leland must have left on. Dominic led me upstairs, and my heart started pounding when he stopped at a bedroom door. This is yours, he said. The master suite is down the hall. I won't disturb you tonight. We're not sharing a bed. Well, not until you want to. He stepped back. Despite what you might think, I'm not a monster, Nora. You've had an impossible day. Get some rest. He turned to leave, and I don't know what possessed me, but I caught his hand. Dominic, thank you. For today. For all of it. He looked at our joined hands, then at me, and something vulnerable flickered across his face. Don't thank me yet, he said quietly. You don't know what you've married into. Then he was gone, and I was alone in a strange room in a strange house, wearing a ring from a man I'd married hours ago. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt alive for the first time in years. And that scared me more than anything else. I woke up to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and a moment of complete disorientation. The bed was too soft. The ceiling was too high. The ring on my finger was too heavy. Then it all came crashing back. I was married to Dominic Falcone, a man I'd known for less than 24 hours. A soft knock on the door made me sit up, clutching the sheets. Yes. Mrs. Leland entered with a tray. Coffee, toast, fruit arranged like art. Good morning, Mrs. Falcone. I thought you might want breakfast before your appointment. Appointment? Mr. Falcone arranged for you to meet with his attorney at 10. Something about updating legal documents. She set the tray on the bedside table. He's already left for the office but said to tell you he'll be back this evening. Left for the office. Like this was a normal marriage. Like I was a normal wife. I ate because I couldn't think of what else to do. Then showered in a bathroom that had more marble than my childhood home. The closet held more clothes in my size, all expensive, all with the tags removed like they'd been waiting for me. How long had Dominic been planning this? At 9:45, a man in a dark suit appeared at my door. Mrs. Falcone. I'm James Harding, Mr. Falcone's head of security. I'll be escorting you to your appointment. I need a security escort to see a lawyer? His expression remained neutral. You need a security escort to leave this room, ma'am. Mr. Falcone's orders. The law office was downtown, occupying the top 3 floors of a building that probably appeared on lists of architectural achievements. The lawyer, a severe woman named Patricia Vance, gestured for me to sit across from her massive desk. Mrs. Falcone, we need to discuss several matters. First, the prenuptial agreement. There wasn't time for a prenup. Mr. Falcone had one drawn up 3 weeks ago. She slid papers across the desk. He's requested you review and sign it retroactively. I stared at the document. 3 weeks ago. Before Trevor left. Before the wedding disaster. Before Dominic had any reason to marry me. He planned this, I said slowly. The whole thing. He knew Trevor was going to leave. Patricia's silence was answer enough. How? How could he possibly know? That's not my area of expertise. My job is to ensure you understand the agreement. In the event of divorce, you receive a substantial settlement. $10 million if the marriage lasts less than a year, $20 million if it lasts longer. You also maintain rights to any property acquired during the marriage, and I don't care about the money. Push the papers back. I want to know what my husband isn't telling me. Then I suggest you ask him yourself. Patricia's expression softened slightly. But I will say this. Dominic Falcone is many things, but he's not careless. If he married you, he had reasons. Good ones. I signed the papers because what choice did I have? We were already married. James drove me back to the estate, and I spent the afternoon wandering the house like a ghost, opening doors to rooms I had no context for. A library with books in multiple languages. A gym that looked like it belonged in a professional facility. A room with nothing but computers and monitors showing security feeds. One monitor showed the front gate. Another showed the driveway. Third showed my bedroom. I was about to storm out and demand answers when I heard voices from downstairs. Dominic was back. And he wasn't alone. I crept to the top of the staircase, staying in shadow. You can't seriously expect us to believe this marriage is legitimate. That was Vincent Calabrese, the man from the reception. She's a nobody, Dominic. A humiliated bride you picked up like a stray dog. Careful. Dominic's voice held a warning. That's my wife you're discussing. This wife is too convenient, a second voice said. Female sharp. Right when the council demands you demonstrate stability, you suddenly acquire a respectable spouse. It looks desperate. It looks strategic, Dominic countered. Which is what you pay me to be. The council wants proof, Vincent said. Real proof this isn't a sham. They want to meet her. Silence. Then Dominic. Fine. Arrange it for tomorrow night. You understand what's at stake. If they don't believe this marriage is real, you lose your seat. Everything you've built gone. I understand perfectly. Now get out of my house. The step. Door closing. Then quiet. I should have retreated to my room. Instead I descended the stairs. Dominic stood in the foyer, loosening his tie, and looked up as I approached. His expression shifted from hard to something softer. How much did you hear? Enough to know you need me to convince someone our marriage is real. I crossed my arms. What's the counsel? He studied me for a long moment, then gestured to his study. We should talk. I followed him into a room lined with dark wood and darker secrets. He poured himself a drink but didn't offer me one this time. The council oversees certain business interests in this city, Dominic began. Think of them as a board of directors, except the stakes are higher and the consequences of failure are permanent. You're talking about the Mafia. I'm talking about an organization that operates in spaces where legitimate business ends and necessary solutions begin. He took a sip. My father was on the council. When he died, I inherited his seat, but there were conditions. I had to prove I could maintain stability, show I wasn't the reckless son they feared. By getting married. By demonstrating I had something to lose. Something that would make me cautious, reasonable. He set down his glass. A wife. Children eventually. The trappings of a man invested in the future, not just immediate power. So I'm window dressing for your criminal empire. You're much more than that. He moved closer. You're my legitimacy. My proof that I've evolved beyond my father's violence. And if the council doesn't believe our marriage is real, they'll remove me. Violently. The casual way he said violently made my stomach drop. What happens to me if they remove you? Nothing good. You know too much now. You've seen too much. His eyes held mine. Which is why you need to help me convince them tomorrow night. And if I refuse, then we both suffer the consequences. He touched my cheek, gentle despite the harsh words. I know this isn't what you signed up for. I know you married me to escape humiliation, not to enter a war. But we're here now, Nora. Together. And we survive together or not at all. I should have been furious. Should have demanded he let me go, annul the marriage, return me to my normal life. But there was no normal life to return to. Trevor had destroyed that. And despite everything, despite the danger and the lies and the surveillance cameras, I didn't want to leave. What do I need to do? Yes. Relief flickered across his face. Tomorrow night, the council members will ask questions. About how we met, how we fell in love, why we married so quickly. You need to sell them a story they'll believe. What story? Dominic smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. The truth slightly adjusted. We met weeks ago when I came to discuss your wedding venue. I was drawn to you immediately. We began an affair. When Trevor left, I saw my chance and took it. An affair. I raised an eyebrow. That makes me look terrible. It makes you look human. Like a woman who fell for the wrong man while engaged to another, who followed her heart instead of her obligations. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. They'll believe that because they want to. It fits their understanding of how the world works. You've thought this through. I think everything through. His hand lingered near my face. Which is why I need you to trust me tomorrow. Can you do that? I thought about the past 24 hours. The wedding that wasn't. The stranger who became my husband. The life that had transformed completely in the space of a heartbeat. I'll try, I said. That's all I ask. We stood there, closer than we'd been since the kiss at the altar, and I felt something shift between us. Not love. Not yet. But recognition. Like two people who'd survived a shipwreck realizing they were clinging to the same piece of wreckage. I met with your lawyer, I said. She told me you had the prenup drawn up 3 weeks ago. Dominic's expression didn't change. I did. How did you know Trevor would leave? He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then. I didn't know. I hoped. You hoped my fiancé would abandon me at the altar? I hoped you'd be free. He stepped back, putting distance between us. 3 weeks ago, I saw you at the cathedral for a planning meeting. You were smiling, playing the happy bride, but your eyes were empty. You looked like a woman going through motions, not building a life. So you what? Decided to rescue me. I decided to offer you an option when the time came. His jaw tightened. And yes, I may have ensured that time came sooner rather than later. The implication hit me like cold water. You made Trevor leave. I made sure he had the opportunity to be honest about his feelings. What he did with that opportunity was his choice. You manipulated my entire life. I gave you a way out of a marriage that would have made you miserable. Dominic's voice rose to match mine. Trevor was sleeping with Kelsey for 4 months, Nora. 4 months of lies while you planned a wedding to a man who didn't love you. I didn't create that situation. I just accelerated its inevitable conclusion. I wanted to hit him. Wanted to scream. Wanted to demand how he could possibly justify playing God with people's lives. But underneath the anger was something else. Relief. 'Cause he was right. Trevor and I had been going through motions. I'd been so focused on the wedding, on the idea of marriage, that I'd stopped noticing the man I was marrying. You had no right, I said, but the words lacked heat. No, I didn't. He met my eyes. But I'm not sorry. Are you? Was I sorry? Sorry I'd married a dangerous stranger instead of a cheating coward? Sorry I was standing in a mansion instead of a modest apartment with a man who'd betrayed me? I don't know yet, I admitted. Fair enough. Dominic's phone buzzed. He checked it and frowned. I need to handle something. Tomorrow night the car will come at 7. Wear something elegant but not showy. These people respect subtlety. He started to leave, then paused at the door. Nora. What you did today, meeting with Patricia, signing the papers without fighting me. That took courage. Thank you. Then he was gone, and I was alone with the knowledge that I'd married a man who'd orchestrated my rescue weeks before I knew I needed saving. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Trevor, about Kelsey, about how I'd missed 4 months of betrayal because I'd been too busy picking out centerpieces. Around midnight, I heard a sound from downstairs. Voices harsh and urgent. I slipped out of bed and crept to the hallway. The study door was partially open, light spilling out. They found the warehouse. That was Dominic, tension in every word. Took everything. 3 months of work gone. Vincent is making a move. A voice I didn't recognize. Using the wedding as proof you're distracted, weakened. Then we prove him wrong. Something slammed glass maybe. Double security on all shipments. And get me everything on Vincent's operations for the past 6 months. If he wants a war, I'll give him one. What about your wife? She's a vulnerability now. She's protected. Nobody touches her. Dominic, be realistic. If Vincent wants leverage. I said nobody touches her. The fury in his voice made me step back. Increase her security detail. She doesn't go anywhere without 3 guards minimum. And I want surveillance on her parents, her friends, anyone Vincent could use against her. My parents. Oh God, I hadn't even thought about them being in danger. I must have made a noise because suddenly Dominic was at the study door, staring at me. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. I wrapped my arms around myself. My parents. Are they safe? He softened slightly. Yes. I have people watching them. They don't know, but they're protected. What's happening? The truth this time. Dominic gestured to the other man in the study, a tired-looking older gentleman. Give us a moment, Thomas. When we were alone, Dominic pulled me into the study and closed the door. Vincent wants my seat on the council, he said bluntly. He's been undermining me for months, waiting for an opportunity. Our sudden marriage gave him ammunition. He's claiming I'm unstable, making rash decisions, that I can't be trusted. So tomorrow night when I meet the council, you need to be perfect, poised, believable, devoted. You need to prove that marrying you was strategic brilliance, not desperate foolishness. He gripped my shoulders. Because if you don't, Vincent wins. And when Vincent wins, people die. The weight of it crashed over me. This wasn't just about saving face or maintaining power. This was life and death. I'm scared, I whispered. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He pulled me into an unexpected embrace, and I let myself lean into the warmth of him. But I won't let anything happen to you. That's a promise. Standing there in his arms, in the middle of the night in a house full of secrets, I realized something terrifying. I was starting to trust him. This man who'd manipulated my life, who'd orchestrated my escape, who operated in shadows and violence. I was starting to believe he'd keep me safe. And maybe that made me as dangerous as he was. Teach me, I said against his chest. Teach me how to survive your world. He pulled back to look at me, surprise in his eyes. Nora, if I'm going to be your wife, really be your wife, I need to understand. The council, Vincent, all of it. I can't just smile and play pretend. I need to know what we're fighting for. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. All right, he said. But once you know, you can't unknow. Once you're truly part of this world, there's no going back to who you were. I thought about Nora Whitmore, the woman who'd planned a wedding to a man she didn't really love, who'd followed all the rules and still ended up humiliated. That woman was already gone. I don't want to go back, I said. I want to go forward. Dominic smiled, and this time it was genuine. Proud. Then let's begin. He spent the next 3 hours teaching me about the council. The 5 families that controlled different aspects of the city's underground economy. The delicate balance of power. The unwritten rules that kept the peace. And Vincent Calabrese, the man who wanted to burn it all down and rebuild it in his image. By the time dawn crept through the windows, I understood what I'd married into. Not just a man, but a legacy. War. A world where one wrong word could mean death. And I understood something else too. I was ready to fight for it. For him. For us. Whatever that meant. The black dress Dominic chose for me cost more than my first car. It hugged every curve, elegant and understated. The kind of thing women wore when they had nothing to prove because their presence was proof enough. Mrs. Leland pinned my hair up, leaving a few strands loose to soften the look. You look like you belong, she said quietly. That's the most important thing tonight. Not beauty, not charm. Belonging. Do I belong in this world? Her hands stilled on my hair. You married into it. That makes it yours whether you feel ready or not. Dominic knocked and entered without waiting for permission. He stopped when he saw me, and something flickered across his face. Perfect, he said. You look perfect. He wore a suit that probably cost as much as the dress, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes. But it was the way he carried himself that made him dangerous. Like violence wrapped in civility. Ready? He asked. I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. 3 cars waited in the driveway. Dominic saw my confusion, Security, he explained. One ahead, one behind. Standard procedure for council meetings. The drive took 30 minutes through parts of the city I'd never seen. Old money neighborhoods where houses hid behind walls and trees, where streetlights seemed dimmer, as if even the city knew to give these places privacy. We stopped at a gate that looked like it belonged to a museum. It opened silently, and we drove through gardens that belonged in Europe, not America. The house beyond was a mansion that made Dominic's estate look modest. "Whose home is this?" I whispered. "Antonio Ferretti. He's been on the council longest. 40 years. His word carries the most weight." "No pressure then." Dominic took my hand. "Remember what we discussed? You met me during a venue consultation. We connected immediately. The attraction was undeniable. When Trevor showed his true colors, I offered you a way forward. You took it because you'd already fallen for me. Lies built on lies. Truth built on timing." He squeezed my hand. "The feelings might have come fast, but that doesn't make them false." Before I could ask what he meant, the car door opened. We walked into the mansion together, and I felt eyes on us immediately. Not just watching, assessing, calculating our worth. The gathering room held maybe 20 people, all dressed like they'd stepped out of a different era. Old-world elegance mixing with new-world power. Antonio Ferretti stood at the center, a man in his 70s with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. He smiled when he saw us, but it didn't reach those eyes. "Dominic. And this must be the bride who caused such a stir. Antonio, may I present my wife, Nora Falcone." Dominic's hand rested on the small of my back, possessive. "Nora, Antonio Ferretti, head of the council." I extended my hand, and Antonio kissed it in a gesture that felt both charming and threatening. "A pleasure. We've heard such interesting stories about your wedding." "I imagine you have," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It wasn't exactly conventional. Conventional is boring." Antonio gestured to the room. "Come, let me introduce you to everyone." The next hour was a gauntlet of names and faces, each person probing with questions disguised as pleasantries. Where did I grow up? What did I do for work? How did Dominic and I really meet? I stuck to our story, adding small details that made it feel real. The way Dominic had smiled when discussing floral arrangements, how he'd seemed out of place among wedding decorations, how I'd found that contradiction compelling. Lies but believable ones. Vincent Calabrese appeared at my elbow during a moment when Dominic was pulled away by Antonio. "Mrs. Falcone, you're performing admirably tonight." "Performing?" Kept my smile in place. "I'm just being myself." "Are you?" He sipped his wine. "Because the woman I see tonight seems very different from the jilted bride I heard about. It's remarkable how quickly you adapted to your new circumstances. People adapt or they break. I chose to adapt." "Interesting." Vincent moved closer, lowering his voice. "Tell me, do you know what your husband really does? The businesses he runs, the choices he makes." "I know enough." "Do you know about the shipments? The warehouses? The people who disappear when they become inconvenient?" I slid down my spine, but I kept my expression neutral. "I know my husband is a good man in a complicated world. Good men don't marry strangers to secure council votes. Good men save women from public humiliation." I met his eyes. "What kind of man tries to undermine a marriage 2 days old?" Vincent's smile sharpened. "The kind who sees through convenient fairy tales. Be careful, Mrs. Falcone. You're swimming in deep water, and you don't even know how deep yet." He walked away, and I released a breath I hadn't known I was holding. Dominic reappeared, reading my face instantly. What did Vincent say? Nothing I couldn't handle. Pride flickered in his eyes. "That's my girl." Something warm bloomed in my chest at those words. Dangerous, that warmth. Distracting. Antonio called for everyone's attention. The room quieted. "We're here tonight to welcome Dominic's new bride into our circle," Antonio announced. Marriage is sacred in our world. It represents commitment, stability, legacy. Dominic has chosen to bind himself to Nora, and we respect that choice. He paused, and the silence felt heavy. However, questions have been raised about the timing and circumstances of this union. Before we can fully embrace this marriage, we need assurances that it represents genuine commitment, not political maneuvering. Dominic's hand found mine, gripping tight. "Nora," Antonio said gently, "would you be willing to answer a few questions? Just to ease concerns." Every eye in the room fixed on me. This was the test. The real one. "Of course," I said, voice steady despite my racing heart. "Tell us honestly. Did you know Dominic before your original wedding date?" Could lie. Stick to our story. But something in Antonio's eyes told me he already knew the truth. "No," I said. "I met him the day Trevor left." Murmurs rippled through the room. Dominic's hand tightened on mine. "So your husband's claim that you'd been conducting an affair was false?" "The affair part was false," I said carefully. "But the connection was real. Sometimes you meet someone and you just know." Sounds crazy, but when Dominic offered me a way forward, it felt right. Like the universe correcting a mistake. "A convenient correction," Vincent interjected. Right when Dominic needed to prove stability. Was it convenient? I turned to face him. My fiancé abandoned me in front of everyone I knew. My family went into debt for a wedding that didn't happen. I was humiliated, heartbroken, and terrified. Dominic appeared and offered me dignity when I had none left. Yes, it benefited him. But it saved me. Is that convenience or fate? The room was silent. Antonio studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. "Well said, my dear. Well said." He raised his glass. "To Dominic and Nora Falcone. May their marriage bring them both the stability they seek." Everyone drank, and I felt the tension in the room ease. We'd passed. Against all odds, we'd actually passed. The rest of the evening blurred into champagne and carefully neutral conversations. Dominic stayed close, and I found myself leaning into him, the role of devoted wife becoming easier with each passing hour. Maybe too easy. We were saying our goodbyes when Antonio pulled Dominic aside. I waited near the door, exhausted but triumphant. A woman approached me. Older, elegant, with kind eyes. "You did well tonight," she said. "I'm Catherine Ferretti, Antonio's wife." "Thank you." I was terrified. Terror makes us brave when we have no other choice. She touched my arm gently. "A word of advice, dear. In this world, trust is currency. Spend it carefully." "I will. I mean with your husband too." Her eyes held a warning I couldn't decipher. These men, they love fiercely, but they also keep secrets. Sometimes to protect us. Sometimes to protect themselves. Learn the difference. Before I could ask what she meant, Dominic returned. "Ready." I nodded, Catherine's words echoing in my mind. The drive home felt different. Lighter. Dominic kept my hand in his, thumb tracing circles on my palm. "You were incredible tonight," he said. "The way you handled Vincent, the way you answered Antonio. You're a natural. I just told a version of the truth. The best lies always are." He pulled me closer. "Thank you, Nora. For tonight. For all of it. We're in this together, right? That's what you said." "Yes." Something in his voice made me look up. "We are." The car pulled through our gate, and relief flooded through me. We'd survived. The council believed us. Everything would be okay. We walked into the house together, and I was already imagining the hot bath I'd take, the sleep I'd finally get. Then I saw Mrs. Leland's face. She stood in the foyer, pale and shaking, and I knew immediately something was very wrong. "Sir," she said, voice trembling. "There's been an incident." Dominic went rigid beside me. "What kind of incident?" "Someone breached the property while you were gone. They left something in Mrs. Falcone's bedroom." "My bedroom." Someone had been in my bedroom. Dominic was already moving, pulling a gun from somewhere I hadn't seen, taking the stairs 2 at a time. I followed despite his shouted order to stay put. My bedroom door stood open. Inside, everything looked normal except for one thing. On my bed lay a wedding photo. Not from my marriage to Dominic. From my almost marriage to Trevor. Except Trevor's face had been crossed out in red. And written across the bottom in the same red marker. She belongs to us now. Dominic's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went from angry to something much worse. Terrified. When? He demanded. How long ago? He ended the call and turned to me, and I'd never seen him look so shaken. Nora, I need you to listen carefully. That photo is a message. Someone took it from your apartment. I don't understand. Your apartment was broken into 20 minutes ago. Everything's destroyed. But that's not the worst part. He gripped my shoulders. Your parents' house was hit too. They're okay, they weren't home, but someone is sending a message. What message? That they can get to you. To anyone you care about. He pulled out his phone again, barking orders to someone. Vincent is making his move. He's using you to draw me out. Fear turned my blood cold. My parents. Where are they? Safe. My people got them to a secure location. He cupped my face. But we need to move you too. This house isn't secure anymore if they breached it once. Where will we go? Somewhere Vincent doesn't know about. Somewhere I can protect you while I end this. End this how? His eyes held violence I'd only glimpsed before. However, I have to. We were packing essentials when James appeared, breathless. Sir, we have a problem. The security footage from tonight, it's gone. All of it. Wiped remotely. Inside job, Dominic said flatly. Someone on my staff is working for Vincent. He looked around at the people gathered, Mrs. Leland, James, 3 other security guards. People he'd trusted. People who'd been in his home. One of them was a traitor. Nobody leaves, Dominic ordered. And nobody goes near my wife. He pulled me into his study and locked the door. Nora, I need you to be honest with me. Has anyone approached you in the past 2 days? Anyone asking questions, offering help, seeming too friendly? Thought back. The wedding coordinator who'd told me Trevor was gone. Patricia, the lawyer. Mrs. Leland. All the staff at the house. Then I remembered. The florist, I said slowly. At the reception. She came up to me, said she wanted to make sure everything was perfect, asked if I needed anything. I thought she was just being nice. Dominic's expression darkened. What florist? I didn't hire a florist. Everything was catered. As flooded my veins. She was there. She talked to me, What did you tell her? Nothing important. Just that everything was beautiful, that I appreciated the flowers. Did she touch you? Give you anything? She adjusted my bouquet. Said one of the roses was wilting. I looked down at my hands, and something caught the light on my wrist. Bracelet. Delicate silver, nothing I'd owned before. I don't remember putting this on. Dominic grabbed my wrist, examining the bracelet. His face went pale. It's a tracker. He yanked it off, threw it across the room. They've been following your every move since the reception. They knew exactly when we'd be at the council meeting. Knew the house would have minimal security. Oh God. This isn't your fault. He pulled me close. This is Vincent playing dirty. But 2 can play that game. His phone rang again. He answered, listened, and something shifted in his expression. You're certain? The evidence is solid. He hung up and looked at me with eyes full of regret. Nora, I have to tell you something. Something I should have told you before. Dread pooled in my stomach. What? Trevor and Kelsey. They're running off. It wasn't as spontaneous as you think. You said you gave Trevor an opportunity to be honest. I gave him $500,000 to leave you at the altar. The words hit me like a physical blow. You what? I paid him to abandon you. Gave him enough money to start a new life with Kelsey, somewhere far away. I needed you free, and I needed it to happen publicly so you'd have no choice but to accept my help. Betrayal tasted like copper in my mouth. You bought my humiliation. I bought your freedom. You orchestrated the worst day of my life. I orchestrated your escape from a man who would have made you miserable. His voice rose to match mine. Trevor took the money, Nora. Gladly, eagerly. I didn't force him. I just made it easier for him to do what he already wanted. Tears burned my eyes. You had no right. You're right. I didn't. But I'd do it again. He stepped toward me and I stepped back. Because look at you now. Strong. Fierce. Fighting instead of hiding. That woman was always inside you. I just gave her a reason to come out. By manipulating my entire life. By giving you a choice. You could have said no at that altar. Could have walked away. But you didn't. You chose this. You chose me. I chose the lesser of two humiliations. Did you? He moved closer, and this time I had nowhere to retreat. Or did you choose the life you were too afraid to reach for on your own? His phone rang again, shattering the moment. He answered, and his expression shifted from angry to alert. When? Are you sure? He hung up and grabbed my hand. We need to leave. Vincent knows the council sided with us, and he's done waiting. He's coming here. Coming here. With what? With enough men to make this a war. Dominic pulled open a drawer in his desk, revealing more guns than I'd ever seen outside of movies. And we're right in the middle of it. Gunshots rang out from somewhere outside. Close. Too close. The war had already begun. And I was trapped in the center of it with a man I could no longer trust, in a world I didn't understand, with enemies closing in from all sides. Dominic grabbed a gun and pulled me toward a door I'd never noticed before. There's a tunnel, he said. Built during Prohibition. It leads to a safe house 3 blocks away. We go now, and we go quiet. What about your people? They're trained for this. We're not. He opened the hidden door, revealing darkness and stone steps leading down. Move! I descended into the tunnel, Dominic behind me, and heard the front door of the mansion explode inward above us. Vincent's voice echoed through the house. Dominic! I know you're here. Come out and face me like a man, or I start killing your staff one by one. Dominic froze on the stairs. I saw the war in his eyes. Run and save me or go back and save them. Don't, I whispered. Don't you dare go back up there. They're my responsibility. And I'm your wife. I grabbed his arm. You said we survived together. So let's survive. For a moment I thought he'd ignore me. Thought he'd go back up and get himself killed trying to be a hero. Then he nodded and pulled the hidden door shut, plunging us into complete darkness. We ran through that tunnel blind, gunshots and screams echoing behind us, and I realized with horrible clarity that this was my life now. Running, hiding, never knowing who to trust. Even the man whose hand I held. Especially him. The tunnel smelled like earth and old stone. We ran in darkness, my hand gripped in Dominic's, our breathing harsh and echoing. Behind us, the sounds of violence faded, replaced by suffocating silence. After what felt like hours but was probably minutes, dim light appeared ahead. Dominic pushed through a door disguised as a brick wall, and we emerged into a basement I didn't recognize. He pulled out his phone. No signal. He swore viciously. Where are we? Gasped. Safe house. It belonged to my father. He moved to a weapons cabinet, started loading guns with practiced efficiency. We wait here until my people secure the situation. Your people who might include a traitor. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. I sank onto a worn couch, adrenaline draining away and leaving me hollow. The past hour replayed in my mind. The council meeting. The photo on my bed. The tracker bracelet. Dominic paying Trevor to leave me. You should have told me, I said quietly. About the money. About manipulating Trevor. I deserved the truth. Dominic set down the gun he was loading and turned to face me. You're right. I should have. But I knew if I told you before the council meeting, you'd look at me differently. They would have seen it in your eyes. So you let me walk in there believing a lie. I let you walk in there believing you'd made a choice. And you did, Nora. Maybe not with complete information, but you still chose. That's not how choice works. In my world, it is. His composure finally cracked. In my world, you make decisions with partial information and hope you survive long enough to learn the rest. I gave you the best option I could. I'm sorry it wasn't perfect. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. Signal had returned. He answered immediately. Report. I watched his face drain of color as he listened. How many? Jesus. And James. Another pause longer. I understand. Fall back to position 3. I'll contact you in 1 hour. He hung up and stood there, silent, staring at nothing. Dominic. James is dead. His voice was flat. He tried to hold them off so Mrs. Leland and the others could escape through the service entrance. Vincent shot him himself. James. The security guard who'd driven me to the lawyer's office just that morning. Who'd called me Mrs. Falcone with such respect. 'Cause of me. Because I'd married Dominic and painted a target on everyone around him. The others, I whispered, got out. Mrs. Leland, 3 guards, the housekeeping staff. They're safe. He finally looked at me. But the house is gone. Vincent burned it. Said if he couldn't have my empire, he'd burn it to ashes around me. Everything. The beautiful house with its library and gardens. The bedroom I'd slept in. The study where Dominic had taught me about his world. What do we do now? We run. Have contacts in Seattle. We can disappear there, start over. Run. You want to run. I want you alive. He grabbed my shoulders. Vincent won. He's probably at the council right now, telling them I abandoned my responsibilities, that I chose a woman over the organization. By morning, he'll have my seat and everything that comes with it. So we just let him win. We stay breathing. That's winning enough. I pulled away from him, anger rising through the grief. You told me you'd never humiliate me. But that's exactly what you're doing. You're making me into someone who runs, who hides, who lets bullies win. This isn't about pride, Nora. This is about survival. It's about who we are. I was shouting now. You said marrying me was strategic. That I made you legitimate. But the first time things get hard you want to run away. What does that make me? What does that make us? Alive. Cowards. The word hung between us like a blade. Dominic's expression shifted into something cold. You've been in this world for 3 days. 3 days and you think you understand how it works. You think you know better than me. I know I didn't leave Trevor just to follow another man who makes decisions for me without asking what I want. What you want? He laughed bitterly. Fine. What do you want, Nora? Tell me. I want to fight back. I want Vincent to pay for James for destroying our home, for thinking he can terrorize us into submission. And how exactly do you propose we do that? I don't know. That's your area of expertise, not mine. But I know running isn't the answer. Sometimes running is the only answer. Is that what your father taught you? Dominic's hand shot out, slamming against the wall beside my head. Not threatening me, but close enough that I froze. Don't, he said, voice deadly quiet. Don't talk about my father. Why? Because he was a coward too. Because when things got hard, he ran, and you learned from him. My father burned everything he touched. He ruled through fear and violence, and it got him killed in a gutter at 53 years old. I swore I'd be different. I swore I'd be smarter. And being smart means running. Being smart means protecting what matters. He stepped back, running his hands through his hair. You matter, Nora. More than the house, more than the council seat, more than any of it. If keeping you safe means I walk away from everything I've built, then that's what I do. The confession stunned me silent. I've lost everyone, Dominic continued, voice cracking. My mother when I was 8. My father when I was 20. Every person I've ever cared about, this world took from me. I won't let it take you too. Tears burned my eyes. You can't protect me by making me helpless. I'm not. Yes, you are. First Trevor made all my decisions, told me what to wear, who to be friends with, how to act. I let him because it felt easier than figuring it out myself. Then you came along and I let you make decisions too. The marriage, the council, all of it. I just followed along like I always do. I wiped my eyes angrily. But I'm done following Dominic. I'm done letting men decide my life for me. Even men who think they're protecting me. What are you saying? I'm saying if you want to run to Seattle, go. But I'm staying. I'm fighting. You can't fight Vincent alone. Then help me. But as an equal, not as something you need to protect. We stared at each other, and I saw the moment he understood. This wasn't about Vincent. This was about us. About whether our marriage was partnership or another cage with prettier bars. His phone rang again. He answered, and I watched his expression change from resignation to shock. You're certain? When? I understand. We'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and looked at me with something like awe. Antonio wants to see us. Both of us. At his estate. Why? Because Vincent went to the council. Told them I'd abandoned my position. That I was running scared. Dominic's voice held disbelief. And Antonio told him the council sides with us. That they want Vincent brought in to answer for his actions. I don't understand. We left. You were going to run. I was. But we didn't. And someone at the council house was watching my property. They saw Vincent's attack, saw him burn the house. He moved closer. They saw it as an act of war, not legitimate challenge. Vincent overplayed his hand. Hope fluttered in my chest. So we won. Not yet. Antonio wants us to come before the council. Wants us to testify about Vincent's actions. But Nora. He gripped my hands. This will be dangerous. Vincent has nothing to lose now. He'll come at us with everything. Then we face it together. If we do this, there's no going back. You'll be fully in this world. There will be more violence, more danger. You'll have to make choices no one should have to make. I thought about the woman I'd been 3 days ago. Passive. Compliant. Letting life happen to her instead of taking control. That woman had died the moment Trevor left. And the woman standing here now. She was done being anyone's victim. I already made my choice, I said. The moment I said, I do. Everything after has just been me figuring out what that means. Dominic pulled me into his arms. And this time the embrace felt different. Not protective. Cool. I'm sorry, he whispered against my hair. For paying Trevor. For manipulating the situation. For not trusting you with the truth. I'm sorry too. For comparing you to your father. That was cruel. It was also accurate. He pulled back to look at me. I am my father's son. I have his darkness in me. But maybe with you I can be something more. Maybe we both can be. He kissed me then, and it wasn't like the chaste kiss at the altar. This was desperation and promise, fear and hope, the kiss of two people who'd faced death and chosen each other anyway. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against mine. If we do this, you follow my lead during the council meeting. Vincent will try to rattle you, discredit you. You stay calm, stay strong. I can do that. And after, when this is over. He hesitated. Talk. Really talk. About what this marriage is, what we want it to be. I'd like that. We gathered what weapons we could carry and headed for the car waiting outside. The driver was someone new, someone Dominic said he trusted completely. I hoped he was right about that. The drive to Antonio's estate felt different this time. We weren't going as supplicants hoping for approval. We were going as equals, as partners, ready to face whatever came next. Dominic held my hand the entire way, and I held his back, and somewhere in that grip I felt the marriage shift into something real. Maybe not love yet, but something that could become love, given time. If we survived long enough to find out. The estate gates opened for us, and we drove through to face the council one more time. But as we pulled up to the mansion, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Vincent's car. Parked right at the entrance like he owned the place. "He's here," I breathed. "Of course he is." Dominic's jaw tightened. He thinks he can talk his way out of this. Convince the council we're the real threat. Can he? Only if we let him. We walked into that mansion together, ready for war, and found the council assembled in the same room as before. But the atmosphere was completely different. This wasn't a social gathering. This was a trial. And we were either the victims or the accused. Antonio sat in a high-backed chair like a throne, and Vincent stood before him mid-speech. Clear evidence of instability. Dominic abandoned his responsibilities the moment his property was threatened. He put a woman before the organization. "I put my wife's safety first," Dominic corrected, his voice carrying across the room. "As any husband should." Vincent spun to face us, and I saw fury in his eyes. "You're supposed to be dead." "Disappointed?" asked sweetly. Antonio raised his hand for silence. "Dominic, Nora, please join us. Vincent has made serious accusations. You'll have a chance to respond." We walked to the center of the room, and I felt every eye on us. Judging. Calculating. "Vincent claims you orchestrated this marriage for political gain," Antonio continued. "That you manipulated a vulnerable woman into a sham union. He says your recent actions prove you're unfit for council leadership. How do you respond?" Dominic opened his mouth, but I spoke first. "He's right." Gasps rippled through the room. Dominic stared at me in shock. I stepped forward, holding Antonio's gaze. Dominic did manipulate the situation. He did orchestrate our marriage for political gain. And yes, I was vulnerable when he approached me. Vincent smiled triumphantly. "But here's what Vincent doesn't understand," I continued. "I knew. Not at first, but by the council meeting 2 nights ago, I knew exactly what Dominic had done and why. And I chose to stay anyway." The smile faded from Vincent's face. "Because marriage in your world isn't about romance or love," I said, looking around the room. "It's about partnership, alliance, mutual benefit." Dominic needed legitimacy, and I needed protection and a new life. We made a deal. An honest one, once all the cards were on the table. I turned to Vincent. "What makes Dominic unfit isn't that he married strategically. It's that you think burning his house and killing his people was an appropriate response. You're not challenging his leadership. You're throwing a tantrum because he outmaneuvered you. You don't have the authority to speak here," Vincent snarled. "I'm a Falcone. That gives me every right to speak." I moved closer to him. "You wanted to know if our marriage was real. It's real enough that I'm standing here instead of hiding. Real enough that I'll testify about everything I saw tonight. Every threat. Every crime. Every reason the council should remove you, not my husband." Silence. Then Antonio began to clap. Slow, deliberate applause. "Well said, Mrs. Falcone. Very well said indeed." He stood, and everyone in the room stood with him except Vincent. "The council has made its decision," Antonio announced. "Dominic Falcone retains his seat. His marriage, whatever its origins, has proven his ability to think strategically while maintaining loyalty to his commitments." He turned to Vincent. "You, however, have proven yourself unstable and dangerous. You violated the sanctity of a council member's home. You killed his people without provocation. You threatened his wife. I did what was necessary. You did what was foolish." Antonio's voice turned to ice. "The council removes you from all positions of authority. You have 24 hours to liquidate your operations and leave this city. If you're still here after that, We'll consider it an act of war. Vincent's face contorted with rage. You'll regret this. All of you. He stormed from the room, and I released a breath I'd been holding. We'd won. Against all odds, we'd actually won. But as I watched Vincent's retreating back, I saw the promise in his posture. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next 18 hours felt like holding my breath underwater. Dominic moved us to a hotel under heavy security while his people swept for any remaining threats. Antonio sent word that Vincent had been seen liquidating assets, preparing to leave the city as ordered. But something felt wrong. He's not running, I said as dawn broke over the city skyline. We stood on the hotel balcony, neither of us having slept. Vincent doesn't strike me as someone who accepts defeat. Dominic pulled me closer against the morning chill. The council gave him an ultimatum. If he stays, he's a dead man. Then he has nothing to lose. The words had barely left my mouth when Dominic's phone rang. He answered, and I watched his face transform from tired to terrified. When? How many? He was already moving back inside, grabbing his gun. Lock it down. Nobody gets in or out. We're coming now. What happened? Vincent took hostages. At the cathedral where we got married. His hands shook as he loaded the weapon. He's demanding I come alone, unarmed, or he starts executing people. The cathedral. The place where my life had shattered and reformed in the span of an hour. How many hostages? 37. There was an early morning service. He was throwing on a jacket, checking a second gun. Your parents are among them. As flooded my veins. What? They went to light a candle for you. Was. Vincent's people grabbed them along with everyone else. My parents. The people who'd raised me, who'd gone into debt to give me a wedding. Who'd watched me marry a stranger and trusted I knew what I was doing. They were in danger because of me. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Dominic. No. He grabbed my shoulders. This is exactly what Vincent wants. He takes you, he has leverage forever. I won't give him that. And I won't let you walk into a trap alone. I won't be alone. Antonio is sending backup. SWAT is on standby. We have a plan. Plans fail. People die. I thought of James, of his body probably still in the wreckage of our house. Let me help. The best help you can give me is staying safe. Please, Nora. I can face Vincent, but I can't do it while worrying about you. He kissed me hard, desperately, like it might be the last time. I love you, he said against my lips. I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but I do. I love you and I need you to live. Even if I don't. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him. Security posted outside to make sure I didn't follow. I stood there for exactly 30 seconds. Then I grabbed my phone and called the one person who might help me. Catherine Ferretti answered on the second ring. Mrs. Falcone. I wondered if you'd call. I need your help. Dominic is walking into a death trap, and I'm the only one who can stop it. Tell me what you need. 10 minutes later, a car arrived at the hotel's service entrance. Catherine sat in the back, and beside her was a black tactical vest and an earpiece. Antonio will kill me if he finds out I helped you, she said as the car sped toward the cathedral. But I've been married to a powerful man for 40 years, and I've learned something important. Sometimes the wife sees what the husband can't. What's that? That pride gets men killed. Dominic thinks he has to protect you by excluding you. But you're not a weakness to be hidden. You're a weapon he doesn't know how to use yet. She handed me the vest and earpiece. You'll be linked to Antonio's security team. They'll guide you in through the service entrance while Dominic enters the front. Vincent will be watching him, not you. What do I do when I'm inside? Catherine's smile was sharp. What you did at the council meeting. What you've been doing since the moment Dominic put that ring on your finger. You survive. The cathedral came into view, police barriers already set up, news vans gathering like vultures. I put on the vest and earpiece, and Catherine squeezed my hand. Trust yourself, Nora. You're stronger than you know. I slipped from the car and moved through the chaos, the vest getting me past police lines. A man in tactical gear met me at the service entrance. Mrs. Falcone. I'm Captain Hayes. Your husband doesn't know you're here. Let's keep it that way until I'm in position. He led me through the back corridors I'd walked as a bride, and the surreal horror of it threatened to overwhelm me. 3 days ago, I'd been in these halls preparing to marry Trevor. Now I was sneaking through them in a bulletproof vest to save my actual husband from a man who wanted us both dead. Vincent has the hostages in the main sanctuary, Hayes whispered. He's positioned himself at the altar with a clear view of all entrances. 4 armed men with him, maybe more we haven't spotted. Where are my parents? Front pew, left side. They're scared but unharmed. We reached a door that opened behind the choir loft. Through the ornate railing, I could see down into the sanctuary. Vincent stood at the altar where Dominic and I had said our vows, gun in hand, looking like a demon in a holy place. The hostages huddled in pews, terrified. My mother had her arms around my father, both of them pale and shaking. The main doors opened, and Dominic walked in, hands raised, no visible weapons. I'm here, Vincent. Let them go. Vincent smiled. You came. I honestly thought you'd let them die rather than give up your pride. You have me. That's what you wanted. Release the hostages. Not yet. First, we're going to have a conversation about respect. Vincent gestured to the pews. See all these people. They're here because of you. Because you couldn't just accept that I was the better choice for the council. You burned my house. Killed my people. That's not strength, Vincent. That's desperation. I did what was necessary to prove a point. That you're weak. That you put a woman before the organization. Vincent's eyes glittered with malice. Speaking of which, where is your beautiful bride? I expected her to come rushing in to save you. She's safe. Somewhere you'll never find her. Pity. I was hoping we could make this a family affair. Vincent raised his gun, pointing it at my father. Tell me where she is, or I start with your in-laws. My mother screamed. My father pulled her closer, trying to shield her with his body. Dominic's composure cracked. Don't, please. They have nothing to do with this. They have everything to do with this. You married their daughter. Made her part of your world. That makes them fair game. I couldn't watch anymore. Couldn't hide while Vincent threatened my family. I stood up in the choir loft. I'm right here. Every head turned. Dominic's face went white with horror. Vincent's smile widened. There she is. The bride who became a queen. Come down here, Mrs. Falcone. Join us. Let the hostages go first. You're not in a position to negotiate. Neither are you. I started descending the stairs, trying to look braver than I felt. The cathedral is surrounded. You're not leaving here. The only question is whether you leave in handcuffs or a body bag. Bold words for someone walking into my gun sight. I reached the sanctuary floor and moved toward the altar, toward Vincent. Dominic tried to intercept me, but Vincent's men blocked him. Nora, don't, Dominic pleaded. Get out of here. Not without you. Not without them. I looked at Vincent. You wanted to prove Dominic was weak. Prove he chose me over the organization. Fine. You were right. Our marriage started as strategy, as manipulation. But it became something real. Something worth dying for. I stopped a few feet from Vincent, close enough to see the madness in his eyes. So here I am. You have both of us now. Let everyone else go. They don't matter. We're what you really want. Vincent studied me, gun still pointed at my father. You think you're clever. Think you can talk your way out like you did with the council. I think you're a man who lost everything and wants someone to pay for it. I understand that. 3 days ago, I lost everything too. We're nothing alike. Aren't we? We both know what it's like to be humiliated. To have the life you expected ripped away. The difference is what we chose to do next. I took a step closer. You chose revenge. I chose to rebuild. Nora, Dominic warned. Don't get closer. But I could see something shifting in Vincent's expression. Uncertainty. Like he'd expected threats or begging, not understanding. You don't have to do this, I said softly. The council gave you a way out. 24 hours to leave. You can still take it. And go where? Become nothing. After everything I built. Become someone new. Someone better. I thought of the woman I'd been. The woman I was becoming. I did. In 3 days I transformed my entire life. You have 24 hours. Imagine what you could do. For a moment, just a heartbeat, I thought I'd reached him. Then his expression hardened. Pretty speech. But I didn't come here for redemption. He swung the gun from my father to me. I came here to destroy the man who took everything from me. And the best way to do that is to take everything from him. His finger tightened on the trigger. Dominic screamed my name. And I did the only thing I could think of. I rushed forward inside Vincent's guard, just like Dominic had taught me during our late-night talk about his world. Too close for him to shoot without risking himself. The gun went off. Pain bloomed in my shoulder, hot and terrible, but I was already moving. I grabbed Vincent's wrist, twisting like I'd seen in movies, probably doing it wrong but doing it anyway. The gun clattered to the floor. Then Dominic was there, tackling Vincent, driving him away from me and into the altar. They crashed together in a tangle of violence. Gunshots erupted as Vincent's men opened fire. SWAT flooded in through every entrance. Hostages screamed and dove for cover. My father appeared at my side, pressing his hand to my bleeding shoulder. Baby girl, what were you thinking? I was thinking I'm done letting men fight my battles, I gasped. The fight ended quickly once SWAT arrived. Vincent's men were outnumbered and outgunned. They surrendered within minutes. But Vincent and Dominic were still fighting, rolling across the sanctuary floor, throwing punches that connected with sickening thuds. Vincent got on top, hands around Dominic's throat. You took everything from me, he screamed. Everything. Dominic's face was turning purple. His struggles weakening. I grabbed the gun Vincent had dropped, my injured arm screaming in protest. Vincent, stop. He looked up at me, hands still around Dominic's throat, and smiled. You won't shoot me. You're not a killer. He was right. 3 days ago I wasn't. But 3 days ago I was a different person. Fired. The bullet hit Vincent's shoulder, exactly where he'd shot me. He fell back with a howl of pain. Dominic gasped for air as SWAT officers swarmed in, dragging Vincent away. Federal agents. Nobody move. The sanctuary filled with law enforcement. Someone was pulling Vincent toward the door, reading him his rights. Someone else was calling for paramedics. I dropped the gun and stumbled toward Dominic. He met me halfway, catching me as my legs gave out. You shot him, he said, voice raspy from being choked. You actually shot him. He was killing you. You could have killed him. At that range, you could have made it fatal. I didn't want to kill him. I just wanted him to stop. I started shaking. Is that wrong? Should I have? No. God, no. He held me carefully, mindful of my shoulder. You were perfect. Brave and strong and perfect. Paramedics arrived, trying to separate us to treat our injuries. We refused to let go of each other. I love you, I said. I know I didn't say it before when you did, but I do. I love you, Dominic Falcone. My husband. My partner. I love you too. He kissed me, gentle despite the chaos around us. My wife. My equal. My everything. They finally convinced us to get in separate ambulances, promising we'd be reunited at the hospital. As they loaded me in, I saw my parents standing with Catherine Ferretti. My mother was crying, and my father had his arm around her, but they were both smiling at me. Proud. Not pitying or worried or disappointed. Proud. I smiled back, and then the ambulance doors closed. 3 months later. The new house wasn't as grand as the one Vincent had burned, but it was ours in a way the other place never had been. We'd chosen it together, furnished it together, made it home together. I stood in the kitchen making coffee, my shoulder fully healed now, only a small scar remaining. A reminder of the day I'd stopped being a victim and became a fighter. Dominic appeared behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist and kissing my neck. "Good morning, Mrs. Falcone. Good morning, Mr. Falcone." 3 months of real marriage. Of learning each other's habits and quirks. Of late-night conversations and early morning silences. Of building something genuine from our foundation of strategic convenience. It hadn't all been easy. We'd had fights about his overprotectiveness, about my recklessness, about how to merge our very different lives. But we'd worked through each one as partners. As equals. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "The wedding. The real one, I mean. Next week we were renewing our vows. A small ceremony, just family and close friends. Antonio and Catherine would be there. My parents. Even Mrs. Leland, who'd returned to work for us once the new house was ready. No drama. No manipulation. Just two people choosing each other freely. Having second thoughts." Dominic teased. "Never. Just thinking how strange life is. 3 months ago, I was planning to marry the wrong man. Today, I'm married to the right one. Even though the right one comes with council meetings and security details and a world you never asked to join." I turned in his arms to face him. "Especially because of that. You didn't give me a perfect life, Dominic. You gave me a real one. That's so much better." He kissed me, coffee forgotten, and I melted into the warmth of him. My phone buzzed. I groaned and checked it. A text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on your marriage. Wishing you both the best. T. Trevor." Reaching out from wherever he'd run off to with Kelsey and Dominic's money. I showed Dominic the message. He raised an eyebrow. "You want me to have him disappeared? You're joking." "Mostly." His smile was wicked. "What are you going to say?" I thought about it, then typed, "Thank you. I hope you found what you were looking for." And I meant it. Because if Trevor hadn't left, I'd be in a mediocre marriage, living a small life, never knowing who I could become. I deleted his number and set down the phone. "No ghosts," Dominic said approvingly. "I like that. We have enough to deal with in the present." He laughed, and the sound still surprised me sometimes. Dominic Falcone, the dangerous Mafia boss, laughing in our kitchen on a random Thursday morning. My husband. My partner. My choice. The doorbell rang. Dominic tensed automatically, always on alert, but relaxed when he checked his phone. "It's Antonio. We have a meeting about the new shipping contracts. I'll get dressed. You're coming. I'm a Falcone, aren't I? That means I have a say in family business." Pride shone in his eyes. "Yes, you do." 20 minutes later, we sat in our home office with Antonio, discussing territory agreements and profit margins. I contributed ideas, asked questions, pushed back when something didn't make sense. Antonio listened to every word. After he left, Dominic pulled me close. "You know what today is." Thought back, counting days. 3 months exactly since the wedding. 3 months since you stood at an altar and married a stranger. Best decision I ever made. Really. Even with everything that happened. Vincent, the violence, getting shot. I thought about James, about the price we'd paid. About the innocence I'd lost and the strength I'd gained. Really. Because that stranger became my husband. And I became someone I'm proud to be. He rested his forehead against mine. "I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. Forever. Forever." We stood there in our home, in our life, in the marriage we'd built from ashes and necessity and unexpected love. Somewhere in the city, Trevor was living with his choices. Vincent was in prison, awaiting trial. The council was stable. And I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Not the life I'd planned. Something infinitely better. The life I'd chosen. 1 year later, I stood in a different cathedral, watching my cousin Sarah prepare to marry her fiancé. She was radiant, excited, ready to start her life. Nervous? Yes. Terrified, she admitted. What if I'm making a mistake? I thought about standing in a similar room, hearing 3 words that destroyed everything. Trevor's not coming. You'll know, I said. Trust your gut. If it feels wrong, walk away. Better to be embarrassed than trapped. She squeezed my hand. You're so different now. Stronger. It's like you're a different person. I am. Turns out getting left at the altar was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because you met Dominic. Because I met myself. The ceremony started. I took my seat next to Dominic, who looked unfairly handsome in his suit. You okay? He whispered. Perfect. We watched Sarah marry her chosen man, and I felt nothing but happiness for her. No echoes of my own almost wedding. No ghosts. Just hope that she'd find with her husband what I'd found with mine. After the ceremony at the reception, Dominic pulled me onto the dance floor. Remember our wedding reception? He asked. How could I forget? You'd paid a fortune to marry a woman you'd known for an hour. Best money I ever spent. I laughed. You're ridiculous. I'm in love. That too. We danced, and I caught my reflection in one of the hall's mirrors. The woman looking back was confident, strong, happy. A woman who'd been abandoned at an altar and walked out married anyway. A woman who'd been shot defending her husband. A woman who'd found herself in the last place she'd expected. In the arms of a dangerous man who'd offered her a way out and given her a way forward. What are you thinking? Dominic asked. I looked up at my husband, my partner, my unexpected forever. I'm thinking about 3 words. I love you. No. The 3 words that started everything. Smiled. Trevor's not coming. You're thanking him. I'm thanking fate. The universe. Whatever power put you in that cathedral the day my life fell apart. I kissed him softly. Because you didn't just marry me, Dominic. You saved me. No, he said, holding me close. We saved each other. And as we danced under lights that sparkled like promises, I knew he was right. This wasn't a story about a mafia boss who rescued a damsel in distress. It was about 2 broken people who found each other in the wreckage and built something beautiful from the remains. It was about choice and courage, and the unexpected places we find love. And it was ours. Every messy, dangerous, perfect moment of it. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, wonderful friend. I hope Nora and Dominic's story touched your heart. Drop a comment below and let me know your favorite moment, and don't forget to tell me where you're watching from. Your support means everything. Until the next story.